November 2024. So on November 15th, we have two major energy shifts taking place, starting with the first one. Saturn, the Lord of Karma, ruling over roles, responsibilities, systems, structures, foundations, willpower, and discipline. Finally coming out of his retrograde, he will be going direct here at 12 degrees in the Pisces energy. So of course, I am going to recommend, if you do have your November energy guide available to you, specifically written for your zodiac sign, bust that out. We want to capture the shift going on in our mood, in our attitude, in our attention, in our physicality as Saturn comes out of this retrograde. A little bit of a backstory, a little bit of a review, if you will. Saturn went retrograde June 29th at 19 degrees in Pisces energy. And so we've had this last 4.5 months of internalized energy in order to show us where it is that, guess what, we got to boss up. We got to do better. We have to make some improvements. We have to be a little bit more, let's call it hell-bent, damn well and determined to actually see things through. And, you know, Saturn shifting into this Pisces energy, of course, we've been in this Pisces energy trying to dissolve the boundaries, the limitations, the restrictions, the old false belief system of the old world that the old version of self had built and created. And of course, Saturn in this Pisces energy, we're trying to close out a 30-year chapter because Saturn takes 30 years to go through all of the signs. And, you know, Pisces energy, we have a lot to release. We have a lot to process. We have a lot to integrate. We have a lot to reflect upon. There is going to be a lot of endings, a lot of closures. We've been in this ending and closure series, not just with Saturn, but of course with all of the other major heavy hitting planets as well. And so we had this retrograde energy kind of put us on pause. We haven't been able to really build or create or rearrange or restructure a lot in our physical realms because we had to sit on the bench, really observe where it is that, again, the old version of self made some of these choices and decisions that brought forth these aspects, these structures in our physical realm based off of the belief system that that old version of self once had. And because the new version of self is now online, taking a good look at what the old version of self had built and created out of that particular false belief system, now we're realizing that we have a lot to remove. We have a lot to close the door on. We have a lot to wrap up as far as loose ends go. Now, Saturn, he likes to, he does love us, but he likes to give us some tough love life lessons. And that's why I usually associate him to be like the militant grandfather. You know, that grandfather that loves you dearly, but of course isn't very emotional, still kind of believing that he's in the military. Things have to be structured. Things have to be perfect. Things have to be a certain way. Saturn gives us an opportunity to move through the tough love life lessons and give us an opportunity to grow, to mature, so that, again, we're integrating previous tough love life lessons that we've already learned the hard way, putting them into practice in this present moment in order for us to avoid making the same type of mistakes again and again. So while Saturn was retrograde, we had a lot of inner work to do, a lot of inner reflection to do, analyzing where it is that the sudden change in our heart space, in our head space, in our worth, values, priorities, definitely putting us in a situation to recognize what we're no longer in alignment with. That's why there has been a, let's call it a purification stage of us kind of realizing where it is that we've been holding on to junk, holding on to gunk, where it is that the attachments to the old world, that old version of self had built, where it feels a little bit claustrophobic. It feels restricted. It feels limited. It doesn't feel like the vibe that this new version of self wants to get down with. So of course, now that Saturn is going direct, we have the opportunity to take the internalized energy and actually do something with it out in the physical realm. So, of course, since June 29th, and again, if you've been doing the work, bust out that particular guide. I make guides for every single month. I make guides for, well, up until recently, every single season. So flip back to the June e-guide and capture what was going on for you, because now we're gaining a forward momentum. We're gaining options and opportunities to actually move on, move forward, and do what we have to do. Now, this is going to remind us, first of all, that we have new wants, needs, and desires that we actually want to manifest, we actually want to bring to life, we actually want to pursue. But we can't really focus all of our energy on bringing those new aspects to life with all of this junk, all of this debris from the old world, the old version of self, taking up the space that we need right now in order to be freed up, cleared up, so that we can start building something new in the place of the things that, of course, currently right now, taking up space in our lives. We've outgrown it. We're no longer resonating with it. Why are we holding on to it? So first of all, this forward movement, yes, it's going to take a little bit of time to actually, start moving forward, because again, Saturn being a heavy hitting planet, very far away from us, he has a very slow pace to him. And a lot of that is to test our patience. A lot of that is to test whether or not we're actually mature, whether we've grown up enough, whether we've actually learned the lesson to the point in which we can move on from it. We're given a little bit of time. Now, we got to move on. We have to move forward. Now we need to boss up, okay? There are new roles and responsibilities being asked of us in this new chapter, in this new life lesson, in this new reality that we have been resisting in actually aligning with. Now with Saturn going direct, we are going to be a little bit more, let's call it, courageous to step up to the plate, to step up to these new roles and responsibilities, fulfill our previous commitments and obligations so that we can, again, tick those boxes off and put that behind us so that we can start building towards new goals. Now, there is a harsh reality check that Saturn likes to bring. He isn't favorable in this Pisces energy because, again, it's hard to build something with the waves of the ocean crashing upon you, trying to erode the foundation and the structure in which you're building. However, the Pisces energy being about our dreams and our intuition and our spirituality and the downloads that we've been receiving on where it is that we need to go from here, Saturn going direct is going to allow us to actually bring those visions, those goals, that fantasy down to earth. We're able to use the, let's call it system, method, process to piece together what we actually have to do in order to build a brand new foundation to align us with the goal, the vision, the dream that we want to be bringing to life. So yes, we are kind of rising to the challenge of new responsibilities, new roles. But at the same time, we're also rising to the challenge to clear out the old. So again, we're definitely, taking stock, taking an inventory of who and what needs to stay, needs to go. We should have been doing that while Saturn was retrograde. And now we see the parameters in which we can operate in. Saturn is about the restrictions, the limitations, the boundaries that we actually can operate within. Yes, it doesn't feel fun to be held back and restricted in any kind of way, but are we going to stand there and beat our head against a wall trying to break that wall down? Or are we going to take a good look around and see what we actually have the freedom to do in the limitation, in the boundaries that we're currently realizing having us trapped to a certain extent? Now, we're not trapped. That's just one of the illusions of the Pisces energy. We're definitely not trapped. However, we tend to focus on all the things that we can't do instead of all of the things that we can. So this is going to kind of shake us up, wake us up to a brand new perspective on what we actually have power and control over. Now, make no mistake, we are definitely going to see where it is that we can only go so far. There are structures, boundaries, limitations, restrictions that we cannot break down at this particular juncture. And probably going to be magnified. We're probably going to think that that's a way bigger deal than it actually is. Because again, we should be focused on what we have power and control over here in this present moment, not what we could have power and control over if this was no longer in existence. we are focusing on our long-term goals, okay? We're coming up with a long-term vision, a plan, a dream, if you will. And over the last couple of months, we've been really struggling to gain the kind of clarity that we need in order to figure out what that goalpost actually is, what that target actually is. And we have been forced into a time where we have to get comfortable with not knowing. Yes, we have a little bit of an idea on the path, on the direction that we want to kind of walk and pursue and hopefully eventually bring certain aspects to life. But realistically speaking, there are a huge amount of details that we're still not privy to, that we will not be privy to. And we have to have faith, again, Pisces energy, in order to actually start walking that path with the trust, with the faith, with the hope that we will be given the clarity that we need when we reach a particular crossroad point. So we're definitely, I'm going to say, more tunnel vision, more future focused on what it is that we want to build, what we want to create. And a lot of this is when we're bold and brave and courageous enough to remove one aspect out of our life, or to destroy a particular boundary, or to dissolve a certain parameter of the old world that the old version of self is built. Suddenly having that space in our lives for us to question what do we want to fill that space with now helps us to clearly define a better alternative. So we are all systems go, but Saturn, again, kind of at a tortoise pace, slow and steady wins the race. And in Pisces energy, it feels like we are 500 pounds trying to run underwater, so we're getting nowheres fast. However, the direct energy is definitely going to be helping us out. So this is the first of two. The second event taking place here today will be captured in a totally different forecast because it deserves that. But it is the full moon in Taurus in a conjunction with Uranus trining Pluto. That's a major deal. Why? Because Pluto in this Capricorn energy at the final degrees of this Capricorn energy coming to an end. We will be shifting into the Aquarius energy here on the 19th. We will never see Pluto in Capricorn ever again in our lifetimes. And we are essentially closing out a 15/16 year chapter. So this particular forward movement from Saturn is, first of all, giving us the focus, the target, the goal that we need to be set upon in order to start making some forward movements, start building something new. This full moon is going to come in Taurus energy, illuminate where in the physical realm something needs to be removed, something needs to be released, something needs to be totally destroyed. That Uranian energy being retrograde in Taurus energy is like a lightning bolt that comes down to Earth to destabilize our physical form, our physical reality, to kind of shake things up and illuminate where there are still weak-ass structures, weak-ass foundations, either in our day-to-day lives, with our relationships, with our routines, with our money matters, with our physical environment, our physical body, our physical health, all of these Earth energy qualities. And having that lightning bolt give us a jolt, shaking things up, trining with Pluto in these final degrees of Capricorn energy, this is the last shakeup, the last wake up, the last little climactic point of, again, endings and closures before Pluto passes the baton over to that Aquarius energy, setting us free, liberating us, putting us in an innovative, progressive type of mood and attitude where major changes and major transformations are definitely taking place. We are still, in fact, in Scorpio season. So I am going to recommend that you do the work, that you get in alignment with this energy, that you do what needs to be done in that November energy guide for this particular energy shift, and you jump over. You listen to the other astro forecast where we're specifically talking about that full moon in Taurus. And side note, definitely be downloading this particular moon guide.